Okay, so I know I just went over big businesses and how big businesses use their tactics of laissez-faire and social Darwinism, the tactics of pulls, rebates, also vertical integration, horizontal integration, holding companies. But all of this, they were able to amass so much wealth. And we saw how those industrialists like Rockefeller and Carnegie amassed so much. And a lot of it stemming from the philosophies of lack of government intervention. But because of the lack of government intervention, because of laissez faire, because of social Darwinism, we're going to see the rise of the labor union movement. Workers are going to start to realize that businesses were only able to amass that much of their wealth with their help. And they're going to be demanding a share of their own, that they want improved working conditions. They want improvements in their pay. But businesses will look at this saying, well, if I improve that stuff, I'm taking away from my profits. And so in the Gilded Age, we're going to see the rise of the labor union. A labor union is a group of workers who organize to protect their interests. And we see a lot of their interests is what they want is better wages. And we're going to see the reason why they want better wages is one of the major problems to the labor union was the surplus of immigrants coming in. We saw this nativism that many immigrants were looked down upon because they brought down wages. And so labor unions, what they're going to try to work for here is an 8-hour workday, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours of leisure. They want improved working hours, but a lot of them are having to work long hours for little pay. And so labor unions will get to come together and they're going to use tools to prevent them by protesting. But what we're going to see, the businesses will hire scabs. They're going to hire immigrants who would work for less money. They're going to lock people out of the factory. They're going to blacklist people, put them on a list of undesirables. They're going to do yellow dog contracts, which say that they can't be a part of a labor union. They're going to use the courts to stop the labor unions. They're going to use private guards to kick people out who are labor unions. And then they're eventually going to call labor unions anarchists. And that is really dangerous at this time, being called an anarchist or a socialist. And we're going to see many businesses are going to have the government on their side. So the labor unions are really having a tough time trying to negotiate against our big monopolist. But their goals are to get higher wages. And again, we know the reason why wages are going down is because of the immigrants. They're going to try to get shorter hours, better working conditions, stop child labor, and compensation for industries. It's because of labor unions at this time that a lot of the benefits you have as a worker are here, such as minimum wage. Even though we know minimum wage is not fully a livable wage, they're going to be striving for that. The 8-hour workday is something that comes out of here. Working conditions, child labor laws, all of the stuff that labor unions were working for in the Gilded Age will be something that we will have dramatic effects today. So the labor union tools, first off, is they would strike, refuse to go to work. And this would affect the business because if workers went on strike, the business would not be making profits. They would often boycott businesses. And they would often collectively bargain, send labor union representatives to negotiate between employers on wages, working conditions, and hours. Our first major labor union that was successful was the Knights of Labor. They included skilled and unskilled workers, African American, women, and immigrants. Their leader was Terence Powderly, and we're going to see their goals: 8-hour workday, equal wages for men and women, end of child labor, better pay, better working conditions. Again, this group is so massive that yes, they should be successful, but because they had so many different people, that's one of the reasons for their demise. But the next reason is that they're going to have it's actually the May Day in Chicago, and they're protesting pay, and they actually have a riot in Haymarket Square. The police are called out, and we are going to see a bomb explodes, the police exchange bullets, and actually this group goes down as being labeled as anarchists. Because of that, this labor union will fall apart. The labor union that is really successful at this time is the American Federation of Labor. We see the reason why it's successful is because it only had skilled workers. Skilled workers are people who have a skill such as tanners, welders, electricians, and they're part of craft unions that set standards. And we're going to see that they're able to get a couple of their goals: higher wages, 8-hour workday, safer working conditions, and benefits for those who are injured at work. The leader of the AFL is Samuel Gompers. He's going to encourage that our labor unions come together and form this massive union, and that they collectively bargain and are going to be able to negotiate their own contracts. They will have over 1 million members and be one of the most successful labor unions at this time. Again, the reason why they're successful is it's hard to replace a skilled worker. It's easy to replace an unskilled worker. Our next labor union is called the Industrial Workers of the World. Their nickname is the Wobblers, and we'll see them more in World War I. They adopted socialist ideas based on Karl Marx, that the government should own the land, the factories, and be able to evenly distribute income amongst people, thus eliminating private property and getting fair treatment of workers. Again, a lot of these ideas, sorry guys, I have no clue why that just came up. Sorry guys. Okay, we're going to see that this leads to fair treatment of workers, and all of these ideas are going to be associated with socialism, and so this group is going to be seen very dangerous in America. Its leader is Eugene V. Debs, and later he will eventually be involved in the Pullman Palace Car Company protest, and we're going to see he will eventually run 4 times for the presidency under the Social Democratic Party. We're going to see there's a lot of confrontations between business and labor unions, and we're going to see a lot of this happens because business owners oppose the union demands of higher wages, better working conditions, shorter hours. And we're going to see unions will gain strength that had willingness to strike. So our first real strike is the railroad strike of 1877. Our economy is having a depression, and the railroad companies responded in this depression by cutting wages. And that would help them reduce the costs and increase their profits. Well, this really struck a chord with the railroad workers because now they're getting less pay when the economy's going down. And so the railroads will close down the railroads, and they're going to have a battle. We're going to see the railroad tracks are shut down, causing economic problems in the country. And the strikers basically take over the railroads. This will lead President Hayes calling in troops, saying that the labor union is acting like a monopoly. They're controlling the railroads, and they sided with businesses. And we're going to see that Americans are fearful of a class revolution. Labor unions are going to gain membership at this time because they realize that they're championing the common man. The next one actually happens with the May Day labor movement, and I talked about this with the Knights of Labor. We're going to see that they're really upset about the Chicago McCormick Harvester plant. They're hiring scabs, which are immigrants who replace strikers, and paying them lower wages. They're going to meet at the Haymarket Square. They're going to be protesting what's going on. The police are called out. A bomb is thrown into the area, and then this group gets associated with anarchism, and they're going to quickly demise as a labor union. And this is what I was saying in the last thing. The police come in, try to break up the meeting, bombs are thrown, people are killed, and many Americans conclude that this labor union, the Knights of Labor, are anarchist, radical, and violent, and it's going to lose popularity and membership. The next one is actually Homestead Steel Strike. This is Carnegie Steel Plant. It's managed by his friend Henry Clay Frick, who's going to cut wages in an economic depression by 20%. And this is going to upset the local labor union because, yes, they're cutting wages, but prices in the company town are still remaining high. So what Frick does is he hires private guards to protect the plants from the strikers. And what will happen is that the labor union's not able to negotiate. So in the end, Frick will only hire non-union workers. And this is a setback to the labor union movement because it looks like they do not have power to deal with these big businesses. The last strike that we're going to talk about is the Pullman strike. The Pullman Palace cart, I don't know if y'all know what a palace cart is, but if you've seen Harry Potter and Polar Express, where the kids sit on, it's called a palace cart. It's a fancy rail car where people sit in. There's some that are called cruchettes, where people could sleep in. And this company basically produced this stuff. But what's going to happen is the company's going to cut wages. In 1893, we're going to have a panic. And we're going to see that they're going to cut wages, but not costs of goods or living in their company town. Workers basically earned their money from the Pullman Palace card, but paid the company for the town that they lived in. They paid the company the bills. And so what will happen is that when they cut their pay, but not cut the price of living, workers will protest. And what they're going to do is they're going to get control of the railroads, and Eugene V. Debs will come in. He's going to say we should not handle the railroads. They're basically going to create a cluster of the rail carts in Chicago. This is going to interfere with the government being able to transport the mail. The government comes in, and we're going to see the army sent in to break up the strike. Eugene V. Debs is jailed at this time, and we're going to see that our labor unions lack power. So all of these strikes have a lot in common. We're going to see the government was used against the strikers. Never did the government come in to side with the strikers. The government comes in to side with big business. Strikers all wanted better working conditions. They all wanted better pay. They all wanted better hours. And we see the workers' demands don't get met. We're going to see the reason why they don't get met is because they're going to be associated with anarchism. The government will always side with business. Even though labor unions did not get their demands met at this time, in the long run, the public began to recognize the need for better balance between the demands of the employers and the employees, because strikes and violence are going to lead to less production and higher prices. So we are going to see that the labor unions at this time were not successful, but they did set the foundation for future growth and better pay, better working conditions, and better hours.